Okay, let's unpack this. Picture this. High-speed military jets operating over the vast open ocean, suddenly getting, well, incredibly close to each other.
Hmm.
We're talking distances that really raise eyebrows. This kind of dramatic scene is exactly what's been reported recently, specifically involving Japanese patrol planes and Chinese fighter jets out in the Pacific.
Yeah.
Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is focused entirely on a specific article that you shared with us. It details these recent incidents, what Japan is formally calling dangerous warplane maneuvers by China.
Right.
Our goal is really to dive deep into just the source material, pull out the most important bits of information and insight, and, understand the precise facts reported about these events. This deep dive, it's built specifically from the information you gave us.
And the context the source lays out is pretty significant, too.
Yeah.
The article mentions that China's 2 operational aircraft carriers were spotted deployed simultaneously in the Pacific for the first time just last weekend.
Oh, okay.
Both at once. Both at once, yeah. And these specific reported encounters happened right in that time frame, over international waters.
So using only the details from this article, let's really get into these encounters. What does the source tell us actually took place?
Okay. According to the article, Japanese P-3C maritime surveillance planes based out of Okinawa were conducting surveillance flights, just doing their job.
Right.
And they were operating in international waters when they encountered these Chinese warplanes.
And the source gets specific about the types of aircraft involved in these, close approaches.
Yes, it's pretty precise about that. It was Japan's P-3C patrol aircraft, those are the surveillance ones, and China's J-15 fighter jets.
J-15s. Okay.
And the article notes these J-15s were operating from the Shandong aircraft carrier,
Yeah.
one of the 2 you just mentioned.
Got it. The report goes into some really specific detail about the timing and the nature of these maneuvers, which Japan described as dangerous or maybe near misses. What are the key facts the article gives us about when and how these happened?
Right, so the source says the incidents happened on Saturday and Sunday. And it gives us some, exact numbers about the distances involved.
How close are we talking?
Well, the article states that on Sunday, a J-15 from the Shandong carrier flew within just 45 meters. That's only about 147 feet of a Japanese P-3C.
Wow, 45 meters. That's incredibly close for aircraft moving at speed.
It really is. The source also details the duration of these encounters. It says on Saturday, a J-15 reportedly chased a P-3C for about 40 minutes.
40 minutes, that's a long time.
It is. And then on Sunday, the same day as that really close approach, the article says a J-15 chased a P-3C for even longer, 80 minutes.
Seriously?
80 minutes, yeah. And during that time, it also crossed in front of the Japanese aircraft at a distance of 900 meters, which is roughly just under 3,000 feet.
Okay, so not just super close passes, but also these sustained interactions, like actual chasing. How did Japan's defense ministry officially characterize these specific maneuvers based on what's in the article?
Well, the source reports that Japan's defense ministry described these approaches as abnormal. That was the word they used.
Abnormal.
Yes. And they explicitly stated that maneuvers this close could potentially cause accidental collisions, the risk factor.
Right, makes sense.
The article also adds this detail that Japan attached close-up images of the J-15 taken on Sunday to their statement that they released on Wednesday. So they had visual evidence.
Okay. And based on the source, were there any actual, physical consequences, any damage or injuries reported from these incidents?
No, the article is really clear on this point. It explicitly states there was no damage to the Japanese planes and, thankfully, no harm caused to the aircraft crew.
Okay, that's crucial. So no physical impact, but obviously something significant enough happened to trigger a formal response from Japan. What does the article say about how Japan reacted?
The source states that Japan formally protested to Beijing over these incidents. That was their sort of immediate official action.
A formal protest. Did they issue a specific statement outlining their concerns? What was the message?
Yeah, the article quotes Japan's chief cabinet secretary, Yoshimasa Hayashi. His message, as it's reported, was that Japan has expressed serious concern to the Chinese side and solemnly requested prevention of recurrence.
Okay, solemnly requested prevention of recurrence. Pretty clear diplomatic language.
Exactly. The article also notes that Hayashi mentioned Tokyo will, keep communications open with Beijing at various levels and make sure they continue monitoring the airspace around Japan's territories. So it's a formal protest, but also saying we're still watching and we need to talk.
Right, okay. Now, let's connect these specific encounters back to the broader context the source provides. We mentioned the carrier deployment at the start. How does the article detail the activities of those carriers in the area around that time?
Yeah, this is where the source gives us a bit more geographic detail. It reports that the Shandong carrier, the one that J-15s came from, was conducting takeoff and landing drills on Monday.
Okay. Where exactly?
The location mentioned is significant. It was north of Japan's southernmost Okinatori Island. And importantly, the article notes this was inside Japan's exclusive economic zone, the EEZ.
Inside Japan's EEZ, that is a key detail.
It is, according to the source, yeah. It also mentions the other carrier, the Liaoning. That one was spotted inside the EEZ on Saturday before it moved outside the zone.
Okay.
But then even outside the zone, it also conducted takeoffs and landings on Sunday. So the article basically places both carriers operating either within or near Japan's EEZ during this whole period.
That really paints a fuller picture, doesn't it? The overall activity in the region when these jet incidents occurred. Does this source give us any historical perspective? Like, have these kinds of close encounters happened before?
It does, briefly. The article notes that similar incidents were reported more than a decade ago. Specifically, it mentions May and June 2014.
Okay, what happened then?
Back then, Chinese Su-27 fighter jets reportedly flew within 30 meters. So even closer than the 45 meters this time.
Wow.
30 meters. Yeah, 30 meters of Japan's military planes. So this detail from the source just shows that this isn't, the very first time such close approaches have been reported between the two.
So what's fascinating here, when we pull all these pieces together, just from the really specific distances reported, like that 45 meters, the 900-meter crossing, the durations of the chases, 40 minutes, then that really long 80-minute one.
Yeah, the persistence.
Exactly. And the types of aircraft, the fighter jets from a carrier approaching the surveillance planes, plus the whole context of the carriers operating, as reported, specifically near or even inside Japan's EEZ, these individual facts, taken purely from this article, they start to build a pretty detailed picture, don't they, of the environment and the nature of the military interactions happening there at that time.
Absolutely. The level of detail in the source provides these concrete data points. It goes beyond just a general statement about close encounters.
Yeah.
It shows how close, how long, and where some of these activities were reportedly happening, including those carrier movements near the EEZ.
And why should you, the listener, care about these specific facts that we've pulled out from this particular article?
Well, because knowing these precise details,
Yeah.
the distances, the times, the specific locations mentioned in the source, like near Okinatori Island or inside the EZ, it gives you a much clearer, more fact-based understanding of what was reported to have happened.
You're right.
It helps you grasp the kind of reality of these military interactions in international air and sea space, and also how countries formally respond when they see something they classify as unsafe. And it's all drawn directly from the information you shared with us.
Right. So just to quickly summarize the core facts we've extracted from the single source, the article reports these dangerous close encounters between Japanese surveillance planes and Chinese fighter jets launched from the Shandong carrier happening over international waters. These incidents included approaches as close as 45 meters and these extended chases lasting up to 80 minutes. This all happened in the broader context, also reported in the article, of China's two carriers operating in the area, with activity specifically noted near and even inside Japan's exclusive economic zone.
Yep.
And Japan's official response, according to the source, was that formal protest to Beijing asking them to prevent it from happening again.
That's the gist of it.
So this deep dive, based strictly on your source material, has really allowed us to quickly get to the precise facts and specifics reported about this event.
And maybe here's a thought to leave you with, based solely on the specifics presented in this article. Given these very precise details that were reported, the exact distances like 45 meters, the durations of the encounters hitting 80 minutes, and that mention of carrier activity specifically within or near an exclusive economic zone, what might these particular data points, as reported, suggest to you about the potential objectives or maybe the operational risks or even the strategic signaling involved in maneuvers like these? What questions does this specific report raise for you about military interactions in international waters?